Jaya Rama Rama Jaya Kunja Vihare 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 Kupijana Vallabha Jaya Girivarari Jaya Girivarari Kupijana Vallabha Jaya Girivarari Jaya Girivarari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Yamuna Tira Chare Jaya Kunja Vihari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Rama Rama Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Rama Rama Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Rama Rama Jaya Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Rama Rama Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Rama Rama Jaya Kunja Vihari Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namne Namaste Saraswati Devam Gauravani Pracharana Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Ashkati Divatarana. So we need some translation or something like this. You will translate? Okay. If I'm too fast or if I'm too, then you have to say. So what do? We read Bhagavad-gita or shall I just start to speak? Because there's a certain subject which I was actually asked to speak about. It's a big subject. Huh? Huh? What? Read Bhagavad-gita? Huh?
What does it mean to live in the temple?
We started Bhagavad-gita. No, just speaking.
Yeah.
Because the time is limited.
Yeah. Whatever.
So, actually I was asked to speak about the reason we are sitting here. Maybe you noticed, as we are sitting here, we have a place to sit. And that place is called a temple. Temple, I remember first time, 1972, when I heard from a friend that I should go with him to a temple. That was in Germany. I'm not a German, but that was in Germany. I saw temple. Wow. This must be some big building with some opulent, like a church, something big. Well, obviously it's not. Most of our temples in Europe don't look like that. Now, our teacher, Srila Prabhupada, he defined temple a place where Krishna is worshipped. Any place where Krishna is worshipped can be called a temple. There are big temples, there are small temples. Nowadays, most, you could call it the devotees or those who practice Krishna consciousness, live in a congregational groups. Every religion has a congregation. There's a Christian congregation, there's a Muslim congregation. There's a Hare Krishna congregation too. People who simply congregate for that purpose of worshipping Krishna. However randomly collected this congregation is, this is a big issue until today. When people ask us, how many members has this movement? I tell you one little secret, nobody knows. Impossible. We don't have a membership cards. I'm Hare Krishna, this is my passport. Srila Prabhupada never advocated. When the reporters asked Srila Prabhupada, how many Hare Krishnas are there? He had a different answers for that. But actually the real classical answer was, as many as you can imagine. Reporters were stunned. Whoa. Because Prabhupada related to our philosophy where it stated that everybody is part of God. So essentially, everybody is part of God, everybody is Hare Krishna. The problem is, some know it and some don't. Some want to know it and some don't want to know it. So there's a difference. But essentially, we are all part of God, one way or another. So we will also have to mention here that Hare Krishna movement is not a particular religion. We don't belong to some sectarian faith. Yeah? We are not insulting or abusing other religious paths. We respect them, but we have a question to ask, naturally. Because we ask ourselves daily questions. What is a devotee of Krishna? Who is really serving Krishna? Well, obviously, the one who knows and who follows what Krishna said. I mean, you know it yourself if somebody comes to you and say, how can I serve you? So then probably you will say, well, maybe you can do this for me. No, I will not do it. Do it yourself. Well, that's not really a servant, isn't it? And it's natural that servant is not the one who is doing what he likes. He does what his servant, what his master likes. Now people are afraid of this. Because, why? Because in this age there are so many false masters. And people try to serve this master and that master and could realize, I got cheated. So then people think, I will be my own master. That's the real thing. Now we know in Krishna consciousness, no, it's actually not possible. You know why? Because we are always servants of something or somebody, always. And if we don't want to serve anybody, well, we have to serve this body, isn't it? The body wants to eat, you must eat. The body wants to sleep, you must sleep. But we think, this is my body. Really, is it? Then if it's my body, why I cannot change it? If it's my body, why I cannot do with it what I really like? If you don't believe me, just wait, grow old, and then you will see. Yeah? This is the beauty. When you get older, you realize more and more, the Buddha is doing what it wants. It grows old. It hurts. It feels like this, feels like that. I don't feel like this. I want to be young. No, the Buddha is old. So obviously it's not ours. It's under control of somebody else. It's very practical. We just ask people to think logically. Then, serving. Of course we will be serving somebody. If not the body, then maybe even the bodies of others. Some people are even proud of it. Yes, I'm a very merciful person. I serve the bodies of others. Yeah? Why not? Yeah? That's a little bit better as to be an egoistic, egocentric rascal. But it's a little bit better. But it has also many problems. Because we don't know really what these bodies want. Once a gentleman challenged me, what are you really doing for people? Are you feeding them? Of course we do. This is a feeding movement. Srila Prabhupada said, nobody should be hungry 40 kilometers around the temple. But we give knowledge also. Not just eating. And what we are serving is prasadam. It's offered to Krishna. It carries a spiritual value. But besides that, we try to people to teach, give knowledge, disseminate information. That's the most important part of this movement. And that's also the meaning of a temple. Temple is not just some place you go and hide and forget the world. No, temple is a place where you learn how to live in this world. Because most people don't even know it. Sorry, but they are just living. Oh, yeah. And, and when you ask them, why are you living? Basically, honest answer would be, I want to enjoy. That's not a bad idea. We know from our scriptures that it is the nature of us as the soul to be joyful. Eternally and full of knowledge. It'd be nice, isn't it? If somebody gives you a tablet and he goes, after taking the tablet, you will be always joyful, full of knowledge forever. Sounds great, isn't it? That would be a good business, such a tablets. But actually, is it happening? No. But there is a way how to actually get to this, and this is called Krishna consciousness. To practice Krishna consciousness. So temple is a place where you can get idea about this. And one can take it and actually get a visual, practical experience. Where is God? Well, there. And they go, what is it? Therefore, usually we don't as the first thing, we don't show people really the images of God, deities. I remember myself, when I came to the temple, first time, it was a very small place. There was already an altar. And there was deities this big, standing Radha Krishna on the altar. In those days, the preaching spirit was so strong that the pujari immediately came running out, the priest, and was going, I will show you something. And he opened the curtain for me. There was nobody else. And then he was completely in bliss. See? And then he closed the curtain again. And he said, did you like them? And I said, who? I had absolutely no idea what he's talking about. My eyes were not trained to see this is the image of Krishna. I just saw big flower arrangement, that I saw. The nice smell from the flowers, that was nice. And I saw this is something very special, but by Krishna, I don't know. My eyes were not trained for this. So generally, we explain to people, we talk to people, and one thing people can see, it's us. They can see that. Talking person to person. Now talking, we know that when we go on a street, talking person to person on the street, not easy. People are busy, people are running here and there. Everybody has some idea, oh, I'm going shopping and I'm going to my job and so to actually explain people something on the street, very difficult, very limited. Therefore, we give him a book that he can take home. And in peaceful home, he can open a book and read something, whatever, even one page. So that's what we do. But if he is more interested, what is it? What is it? Please come to the temple. That's the first information office. That's like Srila Prabhupada called it the embassy, like representing the country. This is a quite challenging designation. Just imagine you come in an embassy and right away at the gate there is somebody standing there going, welcome to the embassy. You will probably think, what kind of country is this? Are they all like that? Challenging. Then you enter the embassy. There's dirt everywhere. There's somebody sleeping there in a corner. And you go, welcome to the, Ula Ula Ubuntu embassy. The Ula Ula Ubuntu embassy. You think, this is a strange country. Are they all like that? So it is a very responsible thing to enter and ultimately live in a temple because you are living in an embassy. And Prabhupada, he said, normally embassies are empty places, not much happening, isn't it? You go there to get a visa. That's exactly what's happening in a temple. You come and you are applying for a visa to go back home, back to Godhead. Therefore Srila Prabhupada used that term. Okay? And those who work in an embassy, usually, they look very, even you don't understand what they are really doing, but they look very, very representative. I met few ambassadors, by the way, actually. People who really served the embassy, you could say in an idealistic way almost. They had some privileges, definitely, because you are representing the country in a foreign country. So, and it is even by law considered that the property the embassy stands on belongs to the country. This is serious. I know when people try to escape from communism to the Western country, sometimes they didn't even leave the country. They climbed over the wall of the embassy of the other country. It was a big problem. East Germany was like that. There was suddenly a move. Thousands of East Germans climbed over the wall of the West German embassy and didn't want to leave. So the embassy was, that's a little bit too much, And the police couldn't get them out because they were entering another country. So finally it was actually settled at that point that, okay, these people can go to West Germany because they are already in West Germany on the West German ground. Krishna consciousness is the same. Temple is supposed to be Krishna's embassy. You enter a temple, you are living in Krishna's embassy. There are privileges to that. You can call yourself Hare Krishna, yes. But one has to learn to represent the country. And that brings responsibilities. Like, can you imagine an ambassador sitting in an embassy and he turns the embassy into his own home. He brings his family, you know. They have families too. And they live in the embassy too. But they have to be careful how they behave, you know, yeah. Because anybody coming in goes to the country. So that brings a certain facilities, but it brings a certain obligations also. Yeah? So temple is like that. An ambassador cannot do simply what he wants. He's connected to the government. So he cannot go out and say, hey, let's have a party. I like parties, you know. Let's have a party. And it's reported that in the embassy they have a big party. Everybody is drunk, you know, yeah. Many girls he'll invite. He likes girls, you know, the ambassador. And the girls like embassy. So then people think, what happened? Well, for sure there will be a phone call made to the capital of the main country. Hey, what kind of embassy you have here? They're all crazy here. They have a party, you know, it's a brothel house. So, you know, and it will not take long and the ambassador will be removed. Can happen. I can go in more and more detail, but this will make the thing very broad. I experienced an ambassador being removed in one day. In my personal experience. It's a long story, but it was a Russian embassy in Stockholm. Big, ugly building. Usually embassies are used for spying and, you know, misused. They don't represent the country, they spy for the country. That's already, you know, compromised. So the Russian embassy in Stockholm, at that time, this was in the early 80s, the Russian Empire started to collapse and we were trying to preach in Russia. Very dangerous, of course. So at that time my future wife was one of the secret devotees, Swedish devotees, who were secretly going as tourists to Russia, but smuggling books. They had a little books taped to the body, like this. And they were going on the Red Square, seeing a young boy, hey, you know. These books are already printed in Russian. So, you know, so very dangerous. But finally, things start to fall apart. So it was decided that it's time to get the Russian devotees out of prisons. Because at that time, whoever chanted Hare Krishna in Russia was locked up in a mental hospital. Locked up. Because chanting of Hare Krishna was considered a psychic disease. So he was, you know, heavily drugged and locked up in a mental hospital. All devotees who try to chant, they end up like this. And these names were known. So there was a heavy propaganda in the West to get them out of these jails. And somebody got the idea that my soon-to-be wife, who was experienced to go to Russia, will sit in front of the Russian embassy in Stockholm, put up a tent, and go on hunger strike until the Russian government doesn't release that particular boy, that devotee who was sitting in jail in Moscow. Hunger strike. It became a huge PR, huge event. Press was there, TV was there, everything. And actually it was presented like he is her fiancé. She will marry him. Not exactly true, but for preaching we do all kinds of things. So she was dressed as a bride, and she was having big posters. Free my dear Vasiliev out of Moscow, out of the jail. It was a big story. It was going all over the Europe. It was TV and radio, everybody, press was there. And of course, the ambassador, that's the reason I'm telling the stories, he didn't like that very much. And of course, it ended up being reported to Moscow. And the ambassador opened the window on a certain point, big Russian, and they screamed really vulgar words on her out of that window. Get out of here, you witch! It was all live on TV, broadcasted. The Russian ambassador goes crazy. They love that. Press is always liking the dirt. Press is like pigs, they always, where's the dirt? Where's the dirt? So they loved that. The next day, a black car came out of the embassy, drove to airport. We never saw the man again. He was called back to Moscow. Come on, just take it easy. Maybe he was the ambassador of some Siberian region. Russians are very clear about this. It's a big country, If you want to disappear, Russia is a perfect place. They will make you to disappear. So anyway, this is just an example. So to be an ambassador, it's a responsibility. And we are very honest. We have young ambassadors, we have older ambassadors. We are training somebody to be ambassadors. People can understand that, But right away, before settling in a temple, one should be already aware this is a responsible place. People will see, they will not see, oh, he is here 2 weeks. They will see, this is Hare Krishna. This is the Hare Krishna movement. So we should be very careful, also the older devotees, not to become some kind of imploding, introverted sect. They have their own rules and they have their own thing. And, I was once, I have many stories to tell, but I was once staying a few days in a monastery in the Alps, in the mountains, Christian monastery, with a whole party of devotees. It was actually quite nice. The monks were very respectful because we were also monks. And they were also chanting their mantras, and we were chanting our mantras. And we had it was very peaceful, it was high up there. But soon I realized that it's a completely isolated place. And they were all, like everybody knew everybody, of course. And they had their own, relationships there, it was obvious. But there was nobody new coming, nobody was preaching. They were just with themselves. Well, that's not a temple. Temple is an open embassy. It's an embassy which loves and invites others to join the country. We have really something to offer. First, prasadam, we have really something to offer. We have wonderful philosophy, amazing philosophy. I know this sounds maybe exclusive and also sectarian, but this is the only place you can get the most detailed description of God. You can go to any religion, and we respect all the religions. You ask, how does God look like? Well, He is great. Well, yeah, we fully agree. He is very merciful. We fully agree. But how does He look like? You are worshipping somebody you don't even know how he looks like. And I don't want to go more in detail because I will end up criticizing all these religions. Basically, we don't. But the information we get is very limited. And you have to be careful. God is powerful. He will smash you. Yeah, really. That's very inspiring to serve Him, isn't it? Essentially, and we are speaking about the dominant religion in this country, God is presented as the chief police and bread maker. So He's a baker and chief police. That's a little bit limited. But He's represented by Son of God. Oh, definitely. Definitely. We have the highest regards for Jesus Christ, who in 3 years did such a preaching that people still talk about Him. What an empowered personality. But how did he look like? Nobody knows. It's not that kind of hippie type person with the long hair, you have this, nice looking, right? No, he comes from the fisherman community. Probably he looked quite like a fisherman. Could be. Nobody knows. Where was he born? Nobody knows either. Some approximate location is there. And where did he die? Well, that's a question. Maybe not on a cross. How come that there is a grave of Jesus Christ in India? Huh? It is existing there. You can go and look. So how is that possible? So it's full of this kind of question marks. We love question marks. In our line, we love people asking questions. Who is this Krishna? Oh, we can talk about describing Krishna day and night. Where does he live? Oh, we can give a very detailed description. And what does he do? Well, that's what we are doing the whole day, chanting and glorifying what he did. Because it's amazing. It's endless. So for us to worship Krishna, not so difficult. Of course, I have to say honestly, when I first time saw Krishna picture, I thought, no, this cannot be God. No. I was an artist, and I thought, looks like a woman. And why is he blue? I asked the devotees, why is he blue? And the devotees said, why not? He is God. He can be any color he likes. Yeah, that made sense. Yeah, God can be blue, green, whatever he wants. He's God. Until it dawned upon me that my imagination has no place here. I imagine God to be like this, or I actually couldn't even understand that he can be a person. I thought, it's a big power. Something very powerful. That was clear to me. Something very, very powerful. It must be God. And the Buddha said, so, whenever you see power, there is a power origin. Where is this power coming from? I had no answer to this. I was just like, wow. These guys, they have an answer for everything. So then I became interested. What is this? What is this? And it never stops. We are still exploring Krishna consciousness. It's so amazing, it's so big, that we are still finding out how big is this Krishna, how beautiful, how renounced, how knowledgeable, unbelievable. You always find new and new things. In our books, you have a perfect description of the creation of the universe. Where do you find it? In any religious books. Well, he created. Yeah, sure, but how? It's all described in our books. Day by day. Unbelievable, isn't it? Yeah. And who helped him? Does God need help? No, he doesn't. He's Atmarama, he is self-satisfied, but he likes to engage others in service. He delegates, he likes that. God doesn't like to be alone. He can be alone, he's God. But you see very rarely picture of Krishna where he is alone. Actually, there's always something or somebody, at least a cow, a peacock, somebody. So Krishna is enjoying. That's God can really say, I am the enjoyer. Why? Because I created it all. People get envious. People think, I would like that too. I also want to become God. This is a very popular idea. More popular as you think. God is the most beautiful, the most knowledgeable, the most powerful, the most renounced. He's incredible. And when you look at people are trying to do, it's the same thing. But I want to be more beautiful. They have to make plastic surgery, I want to be more powerful. You have to go to exercise, in gym. And still, there's always somebody more powerful. There's always somebody more beautiful. I want knowledge. I will study my whole life. So much knowledge. People will respect me. This is a doctor, philosophy, doctor, mother, doctor. I met some very highly academic, educated people. I was shocked how stupid they are. I was vocabulary shocked. I couldn't talk to them even about simple things. What I just said in the last 15 minutes or half an hour, they were shocked when I spoke to them like this. I said, you studied your whole life, you must have an answer for this. Give me information, please. Like some very basic information. Who are you? And they go, well, why are you asking this? I know who I am. I am a Slovenian professor. I said, Slovenian? Oh, that can be changed, especially today. Come on. I am born in Czech Republic. I grew up in Germany. I lived in Sweden. Hey, how many passports you want to see? Huh? You know how many identities I have in one lifetime? That can be changed. Professor? It's a title, isn't it? Do you know, it's very popular, by the way. In the communistic countries it was popular. And there are universities. I can mention University of Nairobi, Africa. If you pay a certain amount, you become a professor. You don't have to study anything. You just pay a certain amount, you are a professor. You can buy a title. That can be all changed. And what is the title meaning? What does it do for you? What is the idea of title? No, I am just a title. People respect, what a title. But nobody asks, what does it? What does it do? What is the man actually doing? He's teaching. That's good, but what is he teaching? It could be maybe that it could be. That's teaching in a university. You go there, they talk only. It could be maybe anything you pick up. I mean, we are simple devotees of Krishna. I can ask any professor of history, was it like that? Very recently, a young student in archaeological line, in an archaeological, university, this is expert archaeologist. So he asked, you are always teaching here that there was a Stone Age man, caveman, right? I think it's not so far away from here. There is a place which is celebrated as the discovery of the caveman. It's on the way to Austria when you drive. There's a big sign on the highway, Caveman Museum, Neanderthal, a Stone Age man, Caveman Museum. Okay? Why? Well, we were researching and we found so many of skeletons and bones in the caves. Right? So this was all cave people, because cave gives you a shelter, and they were sitting them at the fire at the cave. They lived in caves. And the student said, how do you know that? You know what? What about if these people live in huts, small houses even, but so long time ago, well, you will not find the houses. And you know what they did with the caves? They put the dead people there because the caves are like refrigerator. And they worship dead people because then you see all the paraphernalia there. And the scientific world was shocked. What a presentation. It was just somebody who just was thinking more logically. Like in a Vedic culture we represent, You don't find much archaeological remnants of cities even. Not really. Why? Srila Prabhupada explains. Because the climate was such that people didn't care really to build big houses or big residences. The only thing from those days, still, until today, remains, is thousands and thousands of years old temples. That was the only really big building, the temple. Otherwise, maybe the king, there was some palace, you can find sometimes, is connected to the temple or something. But otherwise, the common people, and there were people living there with high culture, very high culture. But they didn't feel any need to have big buildings and all this, because the climate was so nice, you could just live outside, Whenever you travel to more warm countries with better climate, like India is one of these countries, when I came 1978, first time to India, I was amazed how people can live. Just a simple thing, it's warm the whole day. No isolation, nothing. Why? For what? It's just warm sometimes, a little bit too warm. So they need some roof there, some shadow. That's okay. But otherwise, people live everywhere, on the street, like this. It's warm. So the more warmer it gets, the actually more easy it becomes to live, outside even. So not like here, isolation. Close the door, triple glass windows, isolate, warm. Where's the heating? It's actually completely crazy. It's completely artificial. It's a completely artificial environment we are living in. Anyway, so back to the subject of temple. Temple is a place of representation. We should know that. How do you learn to be a good ambassador? Very simple. You find somebody who obviously already represents nicely, and then you learn from him. That's all. Therefore, such a person we learn from how to be a good ambassador of Krishna consciousness is called an authority. Now that word authority is controversial today. People saying, authority, you mean I have to just shut up like a slave and just do what they're telling me? No, this is not our way to do that. We want people to understand consciously why we should consciously follow an authority. The whole Hare Krishna movement is an authoritative movement. It's based on the supreme authority of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And whoever serves the Supreme Personality of Godhead and follows his authority, he becomes an authority for others. Prabhupada said himself, nothing will function without a leader. There's a movement, even anarchistic movement, Yeah, there should be no leader. There should be no authority. But they preached it in a very authoritative way, and they for sure have a supreme anarchistic leader. You cannot avoid it. There are things we cannot avoid in our life. We will have to serve, and we will follow some leader, one way or another. I go out there on a street, I cannot do what I like. I have to follow. I cannot drive the car sometimes left, sometimes right. I would say I don't like the green light on the street. I like more red. So I will drive on the red light. I mean, simple examples. How long can I drive like this? Immediately I will be restricted. I cannot talk to people as I like. There are rules, certain rules. Hello, my name is like this, and then we start to speak. Not like, hello. People will just think, who is this? There are still, even the society is changing the rules very much, but there are still rules. Otherwise, what's the use of all this police and what's the use of all the courts, judges, what's the use? Lawyers I am not going to mention. Lawyers are people who try to change any rule. In American, it's lawyer and liar. It's very similar. As one American comedian said, we are all created by God, but who created the lawyers? Because with a good lawyer, you can cheat, you can do things like that. It's not a question of good lawyer, This is the system they established. Completely corrupt. Completely corrupt. So this is the age we are living, the age of hypocrisy, corruption, and all kinds of anomalies which we see. Now, in the temple, we try to change it. Hare Krishna movement is going exactly the opposite direction. And Srila Prabhupada gave exact description what a leader actually means. First of all, we have all one quality as a devotees. We are all servants, but in different capacity. Somebody is a leading servant, and somebody is a serving servant, who, according to his enthusiasm to practice Krishna consciousness, becomes also a leading servant. But we are all servants. Everybody is a servant. Regardless how great he is servant. Servant of God. Now, one has to understand this. What does a servant do? How is he acting? What does the master want? All this has to be studied. So Srila Prabhupada gave quite a detailed description what a leader means. And I can, in full, with clear conscience, I can give this temple as an example, where you find the leader being always in a serving position. Yeah, I think it was today or yesterday morning, we were eating a very nice breakfast down there in a dining room. And who came out of the kitchen, who cooked the breakfast? The leader. That you don't find very often. Politicians don't do that. No. You don't find, the chief of the country coming out of the kitchen cooking for people. Not really. Sometimes in campaign, they do such a stunts, but it's just a show. But here, we just do what is needed. A cook for that morning is needed, the leader is cooking. This is needed to be done, the leader is there. We have a title in Krishna consciousness called the Temple President. In Sweden, I forbade devotees to call me like this. Temple President. Because in Sweden, people are so envious. It's to be all one and the same, Nobody is higher, nobody is lower. We are all one and the same. And they are hysterical on this. So when I was introduced to new guest, this is our temple president, they start to laugh immediately. They're going, President? This is like Reagan or Trump or whatever. Yeah. And therefore it's a very difficult place like Sweden, no new devotees coming. Krishna consciousness to preach, very difficult. Very, very difficult. And where do you find Krishna consciousness is flourishing? In countries where people spontaneously seek leadership. That's India, Russia. These two places, Krishna consciousness is exploding. Because it's based on that principle. And still the question remains, who is the real leader? One should never forget to ask this. I am not following every leader, just because he's a leader. I want to see. What is he doing? How is he living? How is he helping others to become Krishna conscious? Oh, that's a leader. Not somebody, I don't want to go now on the negative part. It can become controversial, yeah. Not somebody who just hides somewhere and collects money. No. In Krishna consciousness, the leader is the first one to preach, first one to help others. And then, of course, people get inspired. Now, I know this is mundane and this can also be considered controversial, but whenever I visit these old Yugoslavian countries, I cannot avoid to remember Mr. Tito, the man who started this Yugoslavia. You know, now, he was not Krishna conscious, no. He was not even very religious, no. But he understood one thing. If you want to inspire people, then you have to be with them. You have to be obviously communicating with them, trying to find out what they want and what they need. And he did that. There was no place in Yugoslavia where they didn't know when Tito shows up. He was traveling so much. He had even his own train, his own boat, his own airplane. And he traveled all over the world, propagating Yugoslavia, which was a new country. Nobody knew what this is. And when he died, all the leaders from all the countries came together for his funeral, because he made this place. And until today, there are many, many people in old Yugoslavia. They will never allow you to offend Mr. Tito. Because they got so many benefits which they never had before. It was a whole generation of people in these countries. They had, in one lifetime, they could build houses. You know, when you worked in a job here in old Yugoslavia, what was this? When you worked for 12 years, you had a steady job, you worked. That was also an art how to make it, that people keep a steady job. When you worked for 12 years, you got an apartment for free. Just take it. People, of course, get impressed, like, oh, they get motivated like this. Somebody cares. No, I'm not saying that Mr. Tito was a pure devotee. Please don't misunderstand me. No. He was just a man who understood the people who were living here. And how many different people were there. Sorry, but you cannot compare Slovenian people with Serbian people. Completely different mentality, quite different. I'm not saying who is better, who is worse even, but very different. So this Balkan, this part of the world was always known as being extremely conflicted. There was so much fighting going on all the time. And then Mr. Tito came and made one country out of it. Wow. How did he do that? Very basic principle was kept intact. He was with the people, he was trying to understand them, he was talking to them. I met people in Yugoslavia who met him, who were speaking to him, simple people. I don't want to go now in detail, but he managed to inspire people to work even idealistically, which we have sometimes hard time to do. And we are working for Krishna. So, this is a temple. Temple place who should inspire idealism, who should inspire people to serve Krishna. And it is not a place of, it can be, but it's not necessarily a place of a permanent residence, actually. It's a training place. Here you can get knowledge about Krishna, you can get experience how to serve Him, you can learn how to live as a devotee, and then possibly it can happen that you go out and you live. Like whoever gets married, family, not easy in a temple. This was the big crisis in ISKCON. As the monks start to get married. It's possible. We have different ashramas. If a monk feels he should get married, please, get a wife and live like a responsible family man. In a temple, not easy. Because the facilities are limited, obviously. And there is a need of a very close and intense cooperation. Grihastas, or family men, they are dealing with their own problematic issues sometimes, naturally. Family life is not an easy life, it's quite complicated. And these conflicts actually requires a certain privacy. So, and also, in temple, there are monks and nuns. So to have them living so close to those who have families, that can only create trouble. So that was the first crisis in ISKCON. And then the word congregation came. Nobody knew that in the beginning. What is it? Well, that's the devotees who live in their family situations around the temple. That would be the ideal thing. I can mention something very controversial. It's heavy. Prabhupada said nobody should even worship their own deities if it is physically close, a reachable distance to the temple. That should be his deities. Amazing, isn't it? Because this underlines the principle that we should come together and serve Krishna together, regardless in what kind of social situation we are in. Of course, this is not followed, that we know that. But Prabhupada expected that. He said, no, deities or God should be worshipped at home. If you are not able to reach a temple, you may end up living in some remote location. But it's not easy. Then you should worship your own, deities. I don't want to dwell on this more because I know this is not often understood. But anyway, we are just happy somebody serves Krishna at all. Basically, that's what it is. And we find very often that those who live then in that congregation are very good devotees because they received a training in the temple. So it's a training place. It's a good training place to get a good experience and to come together. And then this temple is a place for people who just come together whenever they can to worship Krishna. It's voluntary, right? So that's why we need a meeting place. So there are many different purposes to a temple, and I just mentioned few. So one should learn to understand that. Places like India, there is no need even to explain this. This is automatically understood. A temple in India is thousands of people. Immediately, there's a temple. Let's go to the temple. It's normal. Here, who is coming to the temple? Huh? Not so much. Because people are not trained on this and people don't see any use in it. People are living their own, largely quite atheistic lives. That's what it is. So according to the raising piety and auspiciousness of practicing spiritual life, people feel also the need to come together and worship together Krishna in a temple. There are some more questions or there are many issues connected to that, but otherwise, what are we doing here? What's the use of this? Srila Prabhupada make it very clear, for us, as devotees, we don't need a temple. Prabhupada said, we can live under a tree. But it's not very inviting to invite people, please come sit with us under a tree. You know. There are not many, some people will come maybe, but not very good invitation, you know. Please sit with us under a tree. You know. And it is connected to troubles, challenges. I would call it challenges, not troubles. Like you have a big temple. I can give you a little bit glimpse of history of Krishna consciousness in Germany, because I joined in Germany in 1972. That movement was maybe 2 years old. And there were many temples already started, but it was just little houses, standing here and there, you know. And then some devotees got the idea, not me, we should have a big temple. You know. We have no money to build a temple, you know, but we have enough money to rent a castle. You know, not such a huge castle, smaller castle, but it was a castle. Those days, some of in ISKCON, it was very popular to rent castles or to buy castles. There were castles in France. Until today, they are standing there. There were castles in England, you know, Bhaktivedanta Manor and all this. And there were castles in Spain, you know, yeah. And there were big churches, buildings in America. In America, it was a little bit different. Many church buildings were for sale, cheap. Why? Well, it's not very practical building, you know. What do you do with a big church? You cannot put a family inside. You cannot make even offices there. It's a big church, you know. So such a buildings are for sale, and devotees start to buy such a thing. So it was established for preaching, you need a big building because Krishna is big. Yes. Sounds nice, isn't it? So much trouble came out of this, you cannot imagine. In Germany, immediately the government woke up. The sect bought a castle. You know, no, we didn't buy it. We were renting it. They didn't care. And immediately they focused on us. What is the sect doing in a castle? They collect young people. And what do the young people do? They stop working. Working for us, you know. They don't work anymore for us. They work for Krishna. Oh, alarm, alarm. So the result was that after not even 2 years of this, we got a huge police action coming in. I was part of it, so. 350 policemen surrounding the castle with dogs and everything. Germans are very good on this. They are very organized. Beating up devotees, smashing doors, coming in, putting all the leaders in jail, you know. And we were just small soldiers, and I was just distributing Prabhupada's books. That was the only criminal activity I did. So, so we were interrogated. We were the whole day, registered as criminals with fingerprints and numbers. And now we've finished the sect off. All bank accounts closed, all the money confiscated. And some devotees were saying, oh, this is the end of Krishna consciousness in Germany. They issued even a warrant on Prabhupada. If he would come to Germany, they will put him in jail. Of course he didn't. So 3 years court case. 3 years was lasting. One of the biggest court cases after the Second World War in Germany. But they didn't stop Krishna consciousness. They forgot to take our cars and to take our books. So we end up in the cars, traveling again, distributing these books. And the German nation was alarmed. Watch out for Hare Krishna, the most dangerous sect after the Second World War. Newspapers, you can imagine the propaganda. People were going, are you Hare Krishna? And we were going, didn't you read the newspapers? They're all in jail. They're all in, Hare Krishna is finished. But we have some nice books for you here about yoga and all this. And people were going, okay, yeah, sure, why not? 1.5 years after this happened, Germany was number 1 in a book distribution in the whole world. We took it as inspiration. Okay. So now we will start to preach here. Srila Prabhupada was laughing. He said, the German demons want to kill Krishna. He disagreed. He was so happy. But of course the image was heavy. Heavy. I went out of the car with the books. A simple German lady going shopping. She grabbed me, going, I got him! And then police came. And they asked the lady, what has he done? Well, nothing, but they wrote in the newspaper, if you see them, you must catch them and call the police. So that was the atmosphere we distributed these books. But for us, it was just even more inspiring. They did this big mistake. They didn't took our cars and they didn't took the books. And today, there's hardly any people more remembering. I'm speaking around 1975, So hardly anybody remembers this today. They have other problems in Germany, completely different problems. So we are nowadays established in Germany as the angels. They're singing, dancing, distributing nice food, and some books, yeah, sure. They don't kill people like other religious fanatics do. Things like that. So actually there is an open field, there is an open possibilities. The only problem we encounter is that people still think this society is okay. Actually, they don't think it's okay, but they think it will give me shelter. Well, we will see about that. There are societies which collapsed very fast in the history of mankind. So we are ready because we are Krishna's devotees and we are telling people openly, if everything breaks, depend on Krishna. Krishna is not ungrateful. He will always protect. Krishna promises, to my devotee, I give what he needs and I protect what he has. It's the best insurance company you can have. Because basically insurance companies, they take what you have and they don't protect anything. So, yeah. So this is what we can offer because Krishna is offering this to us. Otherwise, we don't have anything to offer, really. But we have so much to offer because Krishna is so much giving to us. So the meaning of the temple is to illustrate this and demonstrate this and offering people a way to become Krishna conscious. This is described in a very simple fashion. There is much more to it. I could go the whole night on this, but we don't have the whole night. So there's some questions or some comments to this?
So Srila Prabhupada has later come to Germany? Has he ever been in Germany?
He came in, Srila Prabhupada, he came to Germany before this happened. 1972, that's where I got initiated by him. It was the same castle.
Nice.
He liked castles, but full of devotees. Not empty castles. And that was the second visit he came First time he came, I was not there yet. That he came to Hamburg. Second time he came to Frankfurt. I could give a whole detailed story how that happened. It was amazing. It was the first time I saw him.
If it's not too long, can you share a few words about your how you meet Srila Prabhupada?
Well, anytime I describe that, it's like turning on a movie which never goes away. It's so engraved in one's mind and in one's heart that this is like, for me, like today. I can describe you in detail everything what happened that day. I had one misfortune, I was a driver. So, and typical German way, you know. Everything had to be perfectly organized, you know. We are Prabhupada's army, you know. So I had to park the car in a Frankfurt airport while other devotees already jumped out and went to welcome Prabhupada. In the airport, they actually secured a special room where right away on the airport, Srila Prabhupada coming out of the airplane, he was receiving Guru Puja and he gave a short lecture. There was even a TV present there. You know, Frankfurt Airport was not as big as today. It was smaller. So I parked the car and I ran through the corridors of the airport to see Prabhupada, along with 10 other drivers. We had 10 cars to go out and distribute books. So I ran, you know, and then I came into that room. Srila Prabhupada was just finishing. And I just fell on the floor. And nobody here ever experienced such a moment. I can almost give you guarantee. It's a moment which is timeless. There's no time. There was no Frankfurt airport. There was no time. It was kind of me and Prabhupada. I saw him. And I experienced a feeling absolute absence of fear. I felt absolute secured, absolute sheltered. I couldn't care less what passiert even with the rest of my life. I thought, no, this is it. This is the person I was always looking for. And he didn't say anything. He didn't even look at me. You know, I never spoke to Srila Prabhupada personally. I didn't even show some need to come forward and talk to him. I mean, because for me he was everywhere. It was just unbelievable. Then Prabhupada got up and he walked to a car, also rented car. Big white Mercedes, of course, Germany, you know. And there was like at that time 120 devotees welcoming him. Well, everybody had basically the same feeling. We forgot there's an airport. We didn't care there's an airport. So Prabhupada was marching. You know, on the airport you have these big corridors with the gates where you go to individual airplanes. But nobody walked behind Prabhupada. It was, you know, bombastic kirtan going on, but everybody wanted to see Prabhupada. So they all walked parallel to him. The result was they completely caked up the whole corridor. They closed it all up. It was like a wall of devotees, like tsunami, sweeping through the airport. I remember the stories, the people, they want to go to the airplane. They were like, ah! And there's a huge wave of devotees just rolling over them. I remember there was some guards coming, immediate Germans, you know, with a walkie-talkie, you know, help, police. And devotees just pushed them aside. Just, it was like rolling out. Then Srila Prabhupada entered the car. And then we had an agreement with the driver. He had to drive very, very slowly. Because the temple, the castle, was like 40 minutes car drive on the highway. So we had a agreement with the driver, his name was Achetya, that he will drive slowly so we can pick up all the cars from the parking house, jump in and follow and catch up with Prabhupada and line up behind him as one big line, as a little army. So we run towards our car. It was like a rally, it was like Monte Carlo, just like we just run, jump in a car. And actually the only exit was a kind of, at that time, was a spiral. You drive down, from the different, from up you drive down.